Okay, so today I need to make an axe handle. I've got this offcut of maple, which is pretty much the right size. We'll trim it down to what it needs to be. And the hole in this axe is beveled on both sides. Not quite evenly, but pretty close. This is supposed to have a horizontal wedge in it, and luckily this board has the grain running vertically across the end, so a horizontal wedge will not split the board. If the grain was running horizontally in the end, I could use two smaller vertical wedges in order to prevent the splitting of the wood. But we're good with this piece of wood. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that I can shape the head part before I shape the handle part. Yeah, so let's slide this down. Nope. Head's going to go on this end. This is the cut end. The other end is the factory end. It has a couple of cracks in it, but that should be okay once we trim it to handle shape. So first thing we need to do is determine how long we want this. And we're going to make this so that the wood sticks out a little bit. Then we're just going to mark the length of it. And there we go. Let's just make sure that's square-ish. Nothing in life needs to be perfect. Okay, so now we can clamp that in the vise and begin shaping them. Okay, if you look at this axe head, you can see that these wings are much further down than these wings. This should sit on the axe more like a bearded axe rather than any other kind of axe, so that these beards or wings go down the handle. Okay. Now that we've done that, then we're going to set this on top, and we're going to center it by looking down the hole, and then we're going to trace around it with our pencil. We're going to go crazy and do way more tracing than is necessary. Okay, so that line has to remain there plus a little bit. So we don't want to come up to the line. We want to be some distance from the line. Okay, so let us grab some tools. Okay, so we have a chisel, bench chisel. These are blobs. I put olive oil on this when I was moving my shop to make sure that it was preserved, and the olive oil has dried into these hard globs. Next time I do a full sharpen on this thing, all those oil globs will go away, but you can see that the edge is good. This is a Japanese chisel hammer, 300 grams. I have a lighter one. And this is lights falling over. This is a Japanese dozuki. We can start by chiseling this down and putting a bevel on it, but we want to mark our bottom here. So we're going to grab our square and we're going to extend these marks around the board. Okay, that way we know where to bevel out. So I'm going to start by putting a bevel into each of these corners so that if I accidentally overshoot with my cutting, it will stop there. Okay. Now we want to leave lots of space. I mean, we could go right up there and take that huge chunk off, but we're gonna do this incrementally. And that's the way they'll come off with maple. No, maple is not the ideal wood for an axe handle, but it's what I have. And maple is used for axe handles. Something like ash would be preferred, though. You have to be careful when doing it this way, because as you can see, some woods like maple, this is following the grain line just a little too religiously and curving back a bit. So I don't really want that. This is better. See how that one curves out from these ones? They curve out. That's good. I like that. I'm just going to do the rough shape as long as the splitting of the wood is following a line that I'm happy with. I'm going to leave it to follow that grain. Just going to make sure it stops where I want. Okay. I just want to minimize how much rasping I have to do. Okay, that still leaves quite a bit. The Dazuki, I am going to cut along this body line here. I'm just going to do this, not much more than the depth of the teeth. As you see, the depth of the teeth, maybe halfway away of what we need to remove. Okay, let's do the same on this side. Okay, now I'm going to take a chunk of this off with the, not with the Dazuki, with a Ryobi. Ryobi, crosscut teeth, rip teeth. We're going to use the rip teeth. Okay. You see I'm cutting triangles. So I cut a triangle here, like that, then I'll cut some triangle here, and then I'll cut out that remaining triangle in the middle. Okay, there's a good start on that side. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, the rest of this is going to be pared and rasped. We're going to use the rasp to shape this Now, when you drive this on, the axe not going to care if this surface is perfectly smooth and shiny. Who knows, maybe a bit of roughness will allow it to take to the wood better, to the metal of the axe. All right. Okay, that is now drivable. I can drive that all the way on. Before we do that, we're going to grab a saw and we're going to split this and make a wedge to go in it. But before we do that, we're going to shape the rest of the handle with the rasp. I'm going to trim it down so that it has a slight curve into it here, so that when you're working with the axe, your hands want to slide comfortably into the working position, which is going to be about here. But we'll start the taper here and we'll run it down to here, and then we'll taper it back up for the handle. There's a sort of a handle keeper, a swell to keep your hand in. So at this point, I'm going to use a spoke shave. You could avoid all of this hand tool work by just like grabbing a bandsaw and cutting the right curve into it, and then using a rasp or power sander or whatever to get it rounded. But I like working with hand tools, so we're going to go with the spoke shave for now. You could use a draw knife as well, or you could just get right to rasping at this point and shape it with the rasp. But you'll see that the spoke shave does a pretty good job of taking things off real quick. So you can see that's a pretty thick shaving, and it's really, really good. As long as your spoke shave blade is sharp, you're golden. Let me just knock over all my lights. See, going against it really tears it up. Going with it. Super smooth. Okay. That's that side good enough. Now, I'm not worried about all of this tear out. I can work that individually. But when I take the rasp to it and do the final shaping, that will all go away. So you just get that to a shape that feels comfortable, whether it's from gripping this way or gripping from the other way. Just a bit of a round. And then we can take our cabinet rasp Okay, that section is done. Now I just have to do this. Okay. Now I just need to do from here to here on this side, and then do the same thing that I did on this side on the other side, and we'll wind up with a really nice axe handle. Okay, let's get to working on that. Okay, the last thing we have to do is take off these sharp corners. They can be called, they're called stress risers. If you hit a blow directly on there, it can chip that off and cause the handle to crack and split. So, and there. Okay, one step left to do in making the handle, and that is split this here. Okay, can you see the end grain? No, you can't. End grain's running like this at an angle, but it's running through here. So if I put my wedge in this way, it's going to be splitting the grain, and that can cause that wedge split to go right through your whole handle. So you want to make sure you go across the grain. So we're going to do that. We're going to cut split here. If the grain was going this way, we could cut 2 splits here and use 2 wedges to wedge this in. That'd probably be just as strong. Who knows? But this will give that whole surface and that whole surface purchase against the body of the blade. So that's why I chose this piece of maple. So let's grab our little saw. Use your typical Japanese ryoba. Next time, I'm going to clean this axe up, resharpen it, put it on here, put the wedge in, treat the various parts of it with linseed oil, which I'll let dry, and then I'll give it a light coat of shellac, a single coat, and that will be that. In the meantime, we've completed our axe handle.